that we haven't discussed in the past. So we're really excited to share this with you all. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background on our associate attorney. She focuses on family-based and removal defense immigration. She is the president-elect of MABA, the Mexican American Bar Association of Houston, and a pro bono attorney for Montgomery County Immigration Law Clinic. And of course, she's fluent in Spanish. Thank you, Attorney Milian, for your service to the immigration community. You are the best. And I'm just going to let her take it away with what we're going to be discussing today on our Houston judges and what you need to know.
Thank you, Dana, for that nice introduction. Yeah, so we wanted to talk about the different changes that are happening in the Houston courts. The first one being that we have several different courts and a lot of new judges here in the Houston area. So we're going to start talking about the original courts, right, that are in downtown. There's the 1801 Smith Street Court, and then there's a court right across from it, and listed are the names of the judges that are there. So some of these judges we've seen that have been here for quite some time. We see a few new ones, and we've gotten quite a few hearings scheduled with a lot of the new ones. And so it's been interesting to go before them and to kind of see, their practices, how they prefer for things to be filed, and the procedures in court with them as well. So that is something that, we pride ourselves in here at the Power Saw Group, that we have the experience. We've gone before these judges, and we know kind of what to expect at a hearing. So if you have any hearings, if you haven't hired an attorney or are looking to hire an attorney, make sure that you always ask those questions. What experience do you have in court? Have you been before the judges? And to give you those details. There's two new courts, right? We've been talking about the Gessner Court. This one's a little bit older, and we see a lot of new judges there. There's probably like one or two of the judges that were probably here about 2 years ago. The rest are all new. And then we have the completely new Greens Point Court that has a lot of new judges as well. So we've seen a lot of our hearings just get shuffled around that were originally at the 1801 Smith Street or downtown court, get moved to the Gessner and Greens Point Court. So they move them around based on, your zip code and where you live. So if you haven't, looked through your papers of when your next hearing is going to be, make sure that you know where it is going to be held, because you don't want to show up 10 minutes before your hearing to the wrong location. So that's a little bit on the judges. Another thing that you should know, as you know, the courts in all over the U.S., they are under the Department of Justice, and within their under the Executive Office of Immigration Review. And the immigration court is the system in which a proceeding, right, where the judges conduct removal proceedings and they adjudicate claims for immigrants. So the Department of Justice, the Executive Office of Immigration Review, also known as the Immigration Court, is different than an asylum office. It's different than a USCIS office. And, you can have a court in both the detained and non-detained setting. And here at the Power Saw Group, we represent individuals in both settings. We also have the experience of going before these judges in the detention centers, at the Montgomery Processing Center, at Lake Livingston or in the Livingston area, and even in the area of close to the airport. So these are very things that you should keep in mind when looking for an attorney, and to know, what do they know recently? What has changed, right? We've seen a lot of changes with now post-COVID, how judges like to conduct their hearings. We had master calendar hearings. We know some attorneys are not having them, but we are having some. And it all really just depends on the judge, how they're conducting it, whether they're going to allow televideo conferencing, and the motions that need to be filed so that you can have pre-approval of all that. So definitely there's a lot of changes that have happened, and we take, each hearing, each day, we have to be in constant communication with the court clerks to know and to see what are the changes, right? What are things that we need to watch out when we go to the court? So some trends that we've seen in the past few months and in the past year is that, the cases are not going anywhere, right? The court cases, the backlog, it continues to be there. And in fact, you can see in this graphic that the backlog has only increased in the past year to 2 years. And primarily it's been because, the courts were closed for almost a year and a half, and there's been a huge influx of people coming in. And so this is something for you to keep in mind, if you have a hearing scheduled for today or for tomorrow, and if it gets rescheduled to 2 years from now, it's not your attorney's fault. This is completely out of our control. It could be something that they're doing internally with the immigration court to shift things around to let other hearings happen because of this huge backlog. So definitely something to consider when looking at different forms of relief that you're going to be pursuing. Just know that it's not going to be something that's going to be done quickly within a matter of a year or even 6 months, that it could take years for you to finish a process in court. Some things that, like I said, that I was saying, that the courts were closed and they reopened in early July here in Houston. The detained courts never closed, and we've seen, new judges on the bench. We've seen a lot of positive changes in law that give these judges more discretion to do things such as close cases or administratively close cases, so that individuals could pursue other forms of relief at the same time. And, we've heard, right, that there's going to be, there's talk, right, that they could do something, a dedicated dockets for things such as asylum claims or things, specifically whenever a petition or a form is pending with USCIS, to have these status check-ins, status dockets. We're seeing some communication there with the courts and maybe DHS and even the private bar. So we're going to continue to monitor that and see when that will be established, to essentially help reduce the court backlog and get people out of court and get them the form of relief that they need. And also another thing that we've seen is, prosecutorial discretion. That is something that was present, right, and was allowed. There was a memo that was issued in May that basically let the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Chief Counsel decide on what the priorities were and whether they wanted to maybe terminate a case or use their discretion to not pursue a notice to appear for an individual. And then we saw that there was some litigation and there was some confusion in mid-August on whether or not, this preliminary injunction affected Texas or not. As of today, we've seen that locally in the Houston offices, they are still considering them, right? It's not something that's gone away completely. If you submit a prosecutorial discretion request, you can still get a response, but it's going to take some time. I believe they have about 45 days to respond to that request. So we're seeing, things slowly work and change for the better of our clients. And so another thing that you should know is that within court, right, we've seen that scheduling orders have become a huge thing, right? We talked about this in the past about how if an attorney files an E-28 or notice of representation of a client, then it's likely that their master calendar hearing is going to get canceled or temporarily, and the court is going to issue a scheduling order. And instead of you having to go in person, you're going to do everything in writing. And so we've seen a lot of those. We saw a lot of them earlier this year. We're seeing a couple in the last few weeks. And we saw even newer ones after the prosecutorial discretion memo came out. We started receiving other scheduling orders for people that were already set for final hearings, where they had to let the court know if they were going to, pursue any prosecutorial or pursue any sort of stipulations or pursue anything like an administrative closure or motion to dismiss. So, these scheduling orders are slowly evolving to the changes in the law. So it's definitely, something that we as practitioners are also seeing on a day-to-day basis, and we are monitoring to see, how it's all going to develop. So another reason why it's important to have an attorney representing you at all times. And we wanted to briefly talk about the Central American Minors Program. This is something that could assist individuals, whether you're in removal proceedings or not. Just know that the qualifying parent or legal guardian must be at least 18 years old or older and in the US, and have one of the following categories in order to qualify for this. That was a brief, overview of what is happening, but I can tell you that a lot of things are changing. A lot of things have changed in the past few months. So if you are a current client, or like I said, if you don't have an attorney, it's very important for you to talk to someone that has the experience, that has them acknowledged and has gone before these judges, so that you can get adequate representation and ultimately get the results you want before immigration court. So I'll turn it over to Dana.
Thank you so much, Attorney Million. And yes, just like she said, if you guys have any questions or concerns about your immigration case, or just questions in immigration in general, you guys can feel free to ask us any questions on our weekly webinars or on our Powers Hours, or just give us a call to our office at 713-589-2085. And again, you guys can check out our upcoming webinar schedule. The next one that we're going to be doing is all about the provisional waivers. So tune in for that one. I'll be dropping down the registration link down below on our Facebook and also on our website. But that'll be it for today. We're going to go ahead and do this one in Spanish just shortly. Thank you all again for joining us. You all have a great rest of your day.